Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to EpistemiX. I'm Mohsin Mastan and I'm interviewing the host of this show, Imran Hussain, which is a first, I think.
Welcome back, Mohsin, to the show.
Have I? Oh,
You've
yes.
been on
I've
once,
actually done one show on
Yes,
this.
you have.
I
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
Okay, some interesting comments on that. Anyway, we're here because recently on Channel 4's podcast, Krishnan Gurumurthy, I hope I'm saying his name right, interviewed infamous atheist Richard Dawkins.
Yes.
On his new book called Outgrowing God.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't specifically on the book, but obviously he was promoting the book through this.
Yeah. So he was there to promote the book, and he pushed out some very interesting, if oft regurgitated ideas, taken from his first book, or I'm not sure his first book, but his most popular book.
His general ideas. Basically.
Yeah. So like you said, this is a sort of a book for kiddies. If you like.
I was watching it with the intent that maybe he's going to talk, mention the book and speak about the book in particular, but he didn't really go into that. Which, by the way, when it comes out, Hamza is going to do a review on that, and I'm mentioning that right now, so he's, we can hold him to account for that because it's very important that's done.
Yeah.
Which he will do, God willing.
Inshallah.
But what I was taking notes when I was watching this interview, right? And there was not much new there, like we said already, but there were some things that he continuously mentioned over and over again to sort of create the narrative that he was trying to create.
Just to expand on that a little bit, one of the things, I believe he made some epistemic blunders. Maybe you can help to shed some light on that. One of the things he said was that he seems to push the idea that science is the only way to truth.
Yeah.
Right?
In not too many words, yes.
In not too many words. And that science is about evidence and facts, and only evidence and facts. Yeah. And through evidence and facts, we can get to truth.
Yeah.
Now, I know you've got a lot to say on this alone. So I'll let you have the stage.
Let's call a spade, bro. I'm going to be really just honest and blunt here, yeah? He's a biologist. He knows his biology, no doubt, right? He's an expert in his field. But when it comes to certain other things that he talks about, he simply doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Or he's very misinformed regarding those things, right? Now, one of the things is, let's begin with the whole idea of the philosophy of science. Now, he, again, like you said, he paints this picture, look, I'm all about evidence. I'm all about the truth. It's all about the scientific facts. Emotions, feelings, push them aside. Keep them in the realm of the arts, right? Music, poetry, painting, so on and so forth. But when it comes to the truth, it's all about evidence. It's all about science, right?
He seems to be demeaning,
He's demeaning all other roots of knowledge and feelings and emotions. But I would even argue, bro, you can't really push emotions and feelings to the side that much, because don't you need feelings and emotions to do science in the first place?
Absolutely. Ironically, he himself said that, in this very same podcast, he said that when it comes to the arts, when it comes to music, when it comes to, these things, he's deeply moved by these things and he appreciates them, right? So if he's relegating them to something that's not worthy of, investigation or even worthy of being challenged, right? Then why does he take it so seriously?
Well, he may just say something he enjoyed, but the point is that this whole idea that he's pushing is false at its very roots, because the idea that science is evidence-based, which you can say it is, and that it's about the truth, which we have to be careful here, because science doesn't deal with absolute truths.
Yeah.
Science, you can use the term truth loosely, but when you say here is a scientific fact, when you use the term fact here, it's not in its absolute sense. It's what's most probable, what's most likely. It can change. With new evidence, new data, that theory or view may change, right? So science doesn't deal with absolute truths or facts. It's just a method of inquiry to do with the physical world, just studying the physical world. That's the tool or the method that we use, right? Now to take this methodology and to paint it or promote it as the only way to truth, which he subtly, implies, and he doesn't directly say, and I believe he adheres to a type of scientism, which he's promoting and pushing, is not correct, right? For example, science itself, bro. A lot of science is not based on direct study and observations of that particular scientist. It's based primarily on the work of previous scientists, on the studies that they've conducted and the work that they've done in their lifetime, and then the following generations of scientists come and they work upon and build upon that previous
scientist's work.
Testimony. Authentic and valid testimony is based on the testimony of previous work of previous scientists. Yeah. So it's not all empirical, it's not all based on observations.
Wouldn't he argue that, I don't have to do the experiments if somebody's already done the experiments for me?
And for him to argue this, he's relying upon testimony, right? Which is another route to knowledge.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to say here is that science is a brilliant tool when it comes to studying the physical world, but it's not the only tool to understand reality and to attain knowledge and to attain truth.
Yeah, okay.
If anything, science doesn't even deal with absolute truths.
Yeah.
But he doesn't paint this picture. He's trying to paint this whole different narrative, which is science is an amazing method, which it is, but he paints it out to be more than it is. It's almost like science has become his God.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas he denies all other gods from that perspective. That's the first point I wanted to touch upon. And I think it's very important to clarify that.
Okay.
That, yes, and again, he may also, and I'm not saying he does, or he did in this particular radio show, but he may, based on what he's saying, he may, if prompted, he may follow the line of thinking, religion and Islam, and he basically takes a dig at Islam a lot during this podcast.
Yeah, about that. So he was, I believe
just before you move on, just a point before I forget, he may, if he was prompted, he may actually say something like, oh, you know what, religion is backward and you guys are sort of, anti-science and science is progressive, when obviously, again, if he were to make such a claim,
different.
It's not true. Islam actually encourages you to study the physical world.
Absolutely.
But
if you
Islam,
went for Ibn al-Haytham, we wouldn't have the science.
Exactly. But what Islam does is it contextualizes the effectiveness and the correct use of science, and doesn't blow it out to our proportion and make it into a deity in and of itself, basically.
But regarding him, like sort of vilifying Islam, he says Islam is the bogeyman of today. I'm paraphrasing again, and he said that in the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages, as they were known as well, the bogeyman was Christianity, but Christianity has outgrown that concept now, right? And he was asked by Krishnan Guru Murthy, is that you relegate these backward ideas to religion only? And he said no, nationalism, right? And he used the example of America, which I found quite surprising, to be honest, because obviously if you're an atheist, you sort of tend to push a sort of secular worldview.
Yes.
America being the most secular nation on the
he's trying
planet.
to toe the line, right? He's trying to be a bit balanced.
So would you say this is damage control on his part?
Well, it may be. Look, here's the thing. I think Krishnan Guru Murthy did quite a good job in certain aspects or certain parts of the podcast. He really pressed him on certain points, especially when he's, like you said, vilifying Islam. And he challenged him quite well on those points. And he was quite, baffled at points as well. But I think the thing is, let's face it, I think he realizes and he understands that Islam is probably the greatest intellectual challenge to atheism, right?
That's very interesting.
And I think he realizes this on some level.
I believe you're completely correct, because why would he be bothered about something that's not intellectually challenging? It's only when you are intellectually challenged that you make a deal out of it.
Because let's face it, some of the stuff he says about Islam, it's that sort of typical caricature that's painted by some of the sort of anti-Islamic individuals and movements that are out there. It's just absolute nonsense. If he's all about the truth and evidence, he should probably take some time to study Islam and see what Islam really has to say about certain topics, and sit with scholars and sit with individuals who understand Islam. And it's not my role to do that, because that's not my speciality, right? But I would encourage him to do that if he genuinely wants to know and he's all about the truth, as he says, right? But when he speaks about Islam and certain things he says about Islam, it's just nonsense, right? But I think, like I said, he realizes that Islam is the greatest intellectual challenge that he faces and atheism faces.
What makes you say that? What makes you think that Richard Dawkins believes Islam is the most intellectually challenging opposition to his atheism?
Well, one of the things could be, let's look at it this way. Atheism promotes itself as the way of reason, the way of truth, intelligence, rationality, the thinking people, the people of reason, right? And we're all about inquiry and understanding, and we're all about being critical and all of these things. And religion is none of these things. It actually oppresses this. Like, they may be referring to certain things that happened in the history of Christianity, the oppression of free thinking and so on and so forth. But the same doesn't apply to Islam. Islam, if anything, encourages to reflect, to ponder, to ask questions, to think deeply, to ponder over it. God says, do they not reflect upon the Quran, ponder over it, or the locks upon the hearts? It's either you reflect and ponder and ask questions, or your heart's in the wrong state. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also said that, the cure to ignorance, and I'm paraphrasing, is to ask questions, right? So Islam, the Islamic tradition, is all about questioning and inquiring, right? That's what we're encouraged to do. And Islam, the beautiful thing, one of the amazing things about Islam, and the thing that may petrify individuals like Dawkins, is that it has a very strong intellectual tradition. It stimulates the human being spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually, right? It provides answers. Many places, chapter 52, verse 35 and 36. Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in. Or were they created by nothing? Mm-hmm. Right? Or were they the creators of themselves? Yeah. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? rather they are not certain, or they don't want to be certain. Right, pressing questions.
It's very. I find that final part of those two verses very, very potent. Rather they're not certain, because from everything I've seen, everything I've read, they can never claim certainty.
Yeah,
and that I find very powerful.
Yeah, and also the heavens and the earth are being brought into question here. Yeah. Right, so the existence of creation, the existence of the universe.
So basically, he reckons science will eventually solve the origins of life problem.
I love the segue, bro. Brilliant timing. MashaAllah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so he reckons that science will eventually solve the problem of the origins of the universe and of life itself.
Yeah.
What do you make of this?
Well, again, it's his lack of understanding of the philosophy of science that I believe leads him to make such conclusions. Now, when he makes that statement in the video, as far as I remember, when he's challenged on this, he says, well, we have the history of science to look back on. Right? The history of science shows us that science dealt with certain problems and tackled them and provided answers and solutions. Yes, that may be true from the realm of what's studying the physical empirical world, the material world, through empiricism. But science cannot be applied to the metaphysical. Science cannot be applied to things that are beyond the physical. Because science is limited and restricted to studying the physical, right? Through observation, which is through the senses. Now, when it comes to, bro, the question of the origins of the universe, what created this physical material universe that could be studied via science, that thing that brought it into being could not be studied by science because it's beyond the physical. Right? So it's not in the scope, it's not in the realm of science to answer that question, whether you have 1,000 years or 10,000 years from that perspective. But he obviously doesn't seem to understand the limitations of science, right? Which maybe he needs to have a class in the philosophy of science. Maybe we can arrange something with him to sit down with Hamza, and we'll put it out there. If anyone's watching, if there's any atheists watching, maybe if you want to tweet Richard Dawkins to sit with Hamza Zotzes, and because Hamza's studying this on an academic level, and he would love to sit down with him, I'm sure, and discuss this in detail, and to help him out a bit nicely over some coffee, a glass of milk, maybe, as he likes to have,
and a touch of hubris. Okay.
But yeah, he makes these claims, and it seems to be based on an ignorance of the philosophy of science, which, to be fair, is not as fueled, but an academic scientist on that level should educate himself better on these topics if he's going to speak about these things publicly. He seems
to be somebody who tends to belittle, right? People who follow a religion, who have feelings regarding certain things, without using science, right? Don't you find that to be a bit of a, because,
bro, look, humans are emotional. Yeah, we're emotional creatures. Most of the things he said on that interview was coming through his emotions that he has against religion.
Don't you find those emotions a little bit morally decrepit?
Yeah, and even the interviewer many times caught him out on these points, and we're all emotional, right? We all work through emotions. Everything we do is based on how we feel, what drives us, right? You can't separate that, from inquiring and studying the world, right? As he tried to do in the beginning of the interview. But that being said, I think there's one last thing we want to touch upon.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was. There's one thing.
So he challenges the moral code of religion. Yeah. What do you make of his analysis?
Again,
I'm pretty sure he went into he left a few, how do I say, breadcrumbs, right?
Yeah.
But that's all they were. I don't think they had any substance to them personally. Yeah. That's why I call them breadcrumbs, right? They didn't really lead anywhere either. But I want to know what you made of his analysis.
Bro, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And I may be wrong, but I saw right through when he was talking about the whole moral aspect of religion and things he disagrees with. You could see there was uncertainty on his face at points, right? I pick up on these things, alhamdulillah, decently well with people. There was points he said certain things where he didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, credit to him. He actually admitted one or two places through that interview in that podcast that he didn't know. He hasn't actually thought about this.
Which is good.
Maybe Krishna Guru Murthy could shed light on it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very odd to actually ask the interviewer to shed light on a topic he should know about himself.
Yeah. Well, he did make claims regarding religion, and he was referring to the Old Testament in particular.
Yeah.
Certain moral codes and conducts and practices, and he was saying this is wrong and this is good and we should keep this and that. And then at a point he said, well, to assess what's good or bad, we have to have a criterion, which has to be external to the Bible, otherwise it will be circular. However, he stops there. Now, I would have pressed him at that point and asked him, well, okay, Mr. Dawkins, what is your criteria to assess what is good and bad as you're talking about the Bible or the Quran, because he's referring to Islam too, on atheism? What is your criteria?
But that's based on feelings, though, isn't it? It's not based on science. It's not based.
No, I would ask him. I'll say, look, provide me with the criteria.
So there, he's put himself in a hole. Then,
exactly.
Hasn't he, really?
Do you have an objective anchor to assess what is good and what is bad? Do you have a moral anchor in the absence of religion and God that tells you what is good or bad?
I think the bigger question is: can there be a moral anchor beyond religion.
My view is, and I may be wrong, I believe that you cannot have an objective anchor in the absence of God. Because in the absence of God, and if you're an atheist, especially if you're a naturalist and you say that it's all physical and material, that means there's no purpose or meaning behind anything, right? There's no where you gonna find moral laws and codes and so on and so forth in a universe which is haphazard and by chance.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. Yes, they have their philosophies and they have their secular humanism and this ism and that ism, and they have these patches which they use. But again, it's at the end of the day, they easily crumble, right? He seemed to not have any, or didn't promote any particular outlook on his moral philosophy. He didn't seem to have one. But again, time and time again, bro, you see atheists, naturalists, who heavily criticize religion and say this is bad or this is good, when they don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to their moral grounding, right? That is the most fundamental issue, right? Why would you, again, emotions, right? It's all boils down, you got a bit emotional, said things which you couldn't justify account for, right? That being said, bro, now, obviously he said certain things about, again, we've said that before, he said certain things about Islam, which again were caricatures, not...
Do you not find him to be, quite intimidating in a very passive-aggressive way? I mean, considering that he's like... Actually, no, let me ask another question.
Yeah.
I think the answer...
That was a good question.
The answer would be yes, no matter what. I think a lot of people of religion will find him to be passively aggressive, right?
I don't find him intimidating.
But you do find him passive-aggressive.
I pity him.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you not feel sorry for him? Like I think he's in his late 70s or early 80s. I'll be honest, now.
I'm not angry at him.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for him. He's at a very late age in his life, and he just, I don't know, he's on some sort of late life crisis or something. He doesn't want he doesn't want to seem to listen or really inquire about these things that he's talking about, right? Fine, all we can do is try to get the message out to people like him and pray that God guides them.
Based on that, if you were given the opportunity, let's say you two are on a boat, and everyone else had somehow left, and you had, say, an hour to spend with him before you reach shore, how would you give him dawah? What would you say to him? Because you've already heard all his arguments, blah, 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 blah. You could probably repeat them back to himself within 5 minutes, so he knows that
I would probably try to figure out why he's so angry, right? I know he gives certain reasons for why he's so angry towards
his reasons are all emotional.
I'll probably just have a nice discussion with him. Try to get to know him, see what's going on.
Yeah, but I mean, this comes back to the beginning, doesn't it? His arguments for not being religion
I actually like speaking to people in an elderly age. You probably know this from Speaker's Corner as well, right? I have my friends there.
Yeah. But I mean, Noddy, God bless him.
Brilliant guy. May Allah guide him. God guide him.
So here you have Richard Dawkins, right?
Yes.
He's going to make the emotional argument, right, for why he doesn't believe in religion, because of something that happened in his past when he was a Christian at the age of 12 or 13 or whatever, and he was, getting deep into Christianity. Yeah. And then something bad happens. So he gives you an emotional reason for why he left Christianity, because at that time he was not a biologist. He was just a child, right? Teenager, he mentions in the interview it was the age of 15 where he completely left. Yeah. And before that, prior to that, at the age of 9, his mother sort of... So there was a gradual process, and all of these are emotional reasons. So he left religion based on feelings. Yeah, he tries to make a case for science and rationality.
Yeah, and this is
Don't you find a deep irony in this?
This is what results in the biryani that we see in his narrative, right? Or his views. Now, and you see this over and over again, bro. It's always emotional. It's just some atheists are much better at giving it a rational cover than others, right? There was recently a BuzzFeed article that went up, not an article, a post by BuzzFeed where their readers or community left reasons why they stopped believing in God. I did a response to that. Hopefully it should be up maybe by the time this goes up or in a few days on the IRA website. Right. But I addressed, and you'll see that all of the reasons, none of the reasons there logically lead you to the conclusion that God does not exist. All of them are based on just emotional things that people have gone through, and they've not added up things properly, and that has resulted in them in turning away from God, right? I believe with the Dawkins is the same case. It's just he's a very articulate man. He knows how to present his case and how to sort of cushion what he's saying in technical, sophisticated language and give it a garb of reason and rationality, but you can easily see through it, people that want to. And the last thing I want to mention is that obviously his new book is coming out, and
Outgrowing God.
Yeah, and Hamza or someone will be doing a thorough review on it soon when it does come out. It's just for people to just think beyond the suit, the tie, the PhD, the
grey
status,
face.
Status, right? And just to really question and think about what this man is saying, and to really inquire and learn about things themselves. And actually, instead of listening to him about Islam, look into Islam. Don't even listen to us. We're no experts, right? But just to study Islam from authentic sources, from people that know what they're talking about, and to really get a good grasp of what Islam teaches. Even if you don't believe it's from God, at least approach it and see how that could benefit your life and change your life.
And on that note, guys, thank you for watching another episode of EpistemiX.
Let's see if he does the full outro.
What's the full outro?
Guys, make sure to subscribe, share the video, leave your comments below. Let us know what you think of the Channel 4 documentary yourselves. Make sure to subscribe to Dawah Digital as well. This is Dawah Digital. He hasn't put out a video in a while. That's no reason to stop subscribing to his channel. Make sure you keep there. He will be putting out new content very soon.
New content will be coming out soon.
And
actually.
let us know what you guys think. Make sure to share this video.
Let me have my plug, dude.
Yes,
let me have my plug.
Yeah, go on. You can finish
new content's coming out soon on Dawah Digital. But you know what? EpistemiX is where it's at. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. And I think that's me.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.